Hi, thank you for watching the main menu. I am your host, Michelle, and today I have a very interesting show. Here to talk to us about Ayurveda is ELIZA Pierce, and she is from Shanti Yoga, Maine, and Ayurvedic. Thank you for joining me, ELIZA.
Thank you for having me.
First, I'm sure we're going to get into the Ayurveda, but I'm sure a lot of people are wondering, what is Ayurveda? So could you tell us what that is?
So Ayurveda is one of the oldest medicines. It goes back to at least 5,000 years ago from India, and it's the science of life. And so in Ayurveda we look at all aspects of lifestyle, psychological, the place you are in your life at that time, geographical, all kinds of different aspects.
Okay. Since we had saw each other a few months back and you had mentioned Ayurveda, and ever since I've been so intrigued by it, and I've been reading a little bit, and I remember reading about doshas and doshas. So that is terminology that I guess with time you get used to it. But what is a dosha?
So there are 3 doshas, and doshas are energies. We all have them in our bodies. There's the vata, pitta, and kapha. Like I said, we have them in our bodies, but we have them in different balances, in different levels. So somebody may be more prone to being having the vata energy, some more prone to the kapha energy. And these energies come from the earth elements. So we think in Ayurvedic medicine there's 5 elements: earth, water, fire, air, and ether. And so from those qualities of the earth come the energies that we possess in our bodies.
Okay. So we all have all these things in us, but some may be more prominent than others. So how would one determine what dosha they are?
So you can there's all kinds of quizzes online. You can go to Dosha Quiz and search. The best way is really to see, a counselor or practitioner, because there's a test that is a simple test, but that just kind of gives you an outline. There's also a pulse assessment that helps, and also just sitting and interacting with the person and noticing their mannerisms. I'm talking with my hands, and that's a vata characteristic.
Okay. And what would other characteristics be of each dosha? Like for vata, as you mentioned, the movement. What else?
So there's a lot of movement in vata. It is necessary to get from one place to another. It's also movement in the body, movement in the mind. And so some qualities of dosha are light and airy. You think of creativity with the vata dosha on a balanced level, and if the vata dosha gets unbalanced by, say, wind and cold, vatas don't like wind and cold, then they can get unbalanced, and that can turn into signs of anxiety, all the way into digestive issues. For the pitta, a balanced pitta will be very intelligent and have things lined up, but an imbalanced pitta can show signs of anger, irritability. And then with your kapha, they have a really warm, sensitive heart, very generous people. But then an unbalanced kapha or kapha it may also be hard to kind of motivate and get moving.
So it's important to stay balanced, and important to recognize when you're imbalanced, so you can kind of fix the imbalance and kind of get back into that balance. I took one of those quizzes online and found out that I am through and through vata. I mean, it described me to the T, to the crackly joints, to you know, the thin, small frame. And when I'm not balanced, I definitely possess those characteristics that that you really wouldn't want, you know, the anxiety and the nervousness and things like that. So if someone wanted to have a dosha assessment, what else would be involved besides?
So once you find your dosha, then I or an Ayurvedic practitioner or an Ayurvedic counselor, anyone in the line of Ayurvedic work, would take your dosha and look at your diet, see what you're eating now and how that's affecting the dosha you are, and maybe modify it. You know, pitta is from the element of fire, so spicy foods are not so good for pitta. That can cause heat and can cause that anger imbalance.
Interesting.
So pittas are more with the cooling foods, especially in the summertime. Pittas are kind of the only dosha that can get away with eating salads, really, and getting a good proper digestion.
The raw vegetables.
The raw vegetables. Whereas vata and kapha need things softened so that they can digest.
So diet plays a big role in helping to keep the dosha balanced.
Yep.
And a person has all three of these doshas in them, but
Right.
one or two may be more prominent.
Right.
So when you're part of two doshas, how do you manage that?
Yeah, that is where it comes into, that's where it gets a little complicated. And so you kind of pick qualities from each dosha that match. So the vata and the pitta both need a quiet yoga practice, whereas the kapha will need an invigorating yoga practice.
Okay.
So, for example, if a lot of people in this age are vata pitta, pitta vata, some sort of combination of that. Just because we're in a moving, just things are going on. So they would tend to do more relaxing things, eat more kapha-like foods, heavier foods to ground them. Whereas a kapha is already grounded, so they might tend to eat lighter foods, light soups.
I remember reading that about the vatas, that we want warming, heavy,
Yes, warming, heavy
foods, comforting foods. Now, digestion plays a big role in Ayurveda. How does that come into play with all of that?
So in the Western idea, you are what you eat. In Ayurveda, you are what you digest. So, for example, you can go out and eat a wonderfully balanced meal, Ayurvedically balanced meal, but if you're eating it at 10 o'clock at night and you're going to bed at 10:30, it has no time to digest. If you're eating a perfectly balanced meal and you finish it with a cold glass of water, it doesn't have time to digest as well. So we need to focus on the time of day when we're eating. So a good time to eat is, between 6 and 7. And that fluctuates a little bit with the doshas, but not too much. And then we want to eat the biggest meal at noon, and then our lightest meal in the evening. Always want to get that meal in before 8, and allow yourself at least 2 hours before bed to digest.
Okay, that's interesting. So if you can go out and eat the healthiest meal possible that you think that's healthy, but if you're not digesting it properly, then you're really not doing any good.
It'll create what's called ama, and that is undigested food. And ama will come out and show in forms of headaches, stomach aches, so muscle aches. It can, ama is the kind of the leading cause of dis-ease. So disease,
yes,
dis-ease.
Dis-ease, I've heard that.
Yeah, so we need to get the ama away by eating that well-balanced meal at the right time.
So being on some kind of a routine or some kind of schedule is going to be best.
Ayurveda is very routine.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this isn't, this is not a diet, this is like a lifestyle.
Yes, it's a
not,
lifestyle.
exactly, this is not, you know, this is just for your well-being.
Right.
So,
And we'll, sometimes I'll do a couple of cleanses during the year, because a couple, during spring and fall is a good time to cleanse out the body. But other than that, it's really an ongoing cleanse in your body with the eating the proper foods at the right time, the right seasons.
and what would an Ayurvedic cleanse consist of?
So there's something called ghee, and it's clarified butter, and it's very popular in India, and it's basically butter with the milk solids removed, so it's a very clean oil. So at the beginning of the cleanse, we would be taking in ghee first thing in the morning to internally oleate the system. We do that for about 3 days and cut back on white flour, sugar, caffeine, alcohol. And then we would do an external oleation, and that involves rubbing the entire body with oil, and do that for a few days in a row.
Particular oils or?
Yeah, so we would want warming oils for a vata or a kapha, because they tend to run cold.
Oh, okay.
And we would want like sesame oil, and for pitta, more like coconut oil.
Okay, so you really have to
cooling.
customize it
Yeah.
to the dosha. So that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, and sunflower oil goes good with all doshas. So
That sounds wonderful, actually. I'll have to check that out. So when a dosha, we talked about a little bit, but when a dosha is imbalanced, what would be some of the characteristics of each dosha for someone to recognize it in themselves? You
Okay.
mentioned, I think we mentioned
Right.
a little bit for
Yeah.
vata, but
yeah, so a good way is, how do you feel under stress? Do you get anxious and kind of scattered? That is a vata tendency. You may get very irritable and angry about the situation, and that's a pitta. Or you may withdraw from the situation, and that would be kapha.
okay. And when
Since sometimes we all have a little bit of that in ourselves. So,
True.
it's not a black and white science. It's a very gray area,
okay.
and we fall all over the charts because we're each individuals. So we might both be vata pittas, but we might have entirely different characteristics and situations.
Okay, so characteristics might differ a little bit for each person, so it's kind of a general, you
Yeah.
might have a few of these, but
Yeah, so you just don't want to think inside a box. You
Okay.
just kind of want to, the general, kind of the general guidelines that you can find online, just looking up any Ayurvedic site, looking up your dosha, just getting that general information.
okay. So if someone was looking to start Ayurveda, what would you recommend for them to do for the very beginning to get started?
I would look for workshops out there.
Like you provide at Shanti Yoga?
Yes, I do about a workshop a month.
Okay.
And I do those sometimes at studios, and the next one I'm going to do at my home, because we're going to be using the kitchen. It's going to be Ayurveda herbs and spices, so we'll be going through about 10 to 20 herbs and spices
Fabulous.
and Ayurvedic herbs and spices all have wonderful digestive effects. And so we'll be talking about which herbs are better for pitta. The heating herbs are no good for pitta. And but there are cooling herbs, so the vatas and the kaphas can still get those.
Interesting. So that's really, there's a lot. I mean, a lot of areas.
Yeah,
involved with
herbs,
herbs, food,
Exercise,
activity level.
the different types of yoga. Like I said before, the vatas want to go really slow. The pittas want to cool down with forward poses, and the kaphas just want to get up and get their heart going, even though that might not be what they naturally want to do. Ayurveda is based on opposites in order to balance. So we have a kapha person who's just, relatively happy being on the couch watching movies or reading books or knitting. They need the opposite to balance. So they need to get up, maybe go for a jog and get their hearts moving, whereas the vatas and the pittas need to relax.
Yes.
Do more meditation and breath work.
And you had mentioned, you're also an experienced yoga instructor, and that comes into play in a big way when it comes to Ayurveda. So how do you work the two together?
So Ayurveda is the sister science of yoga. So as my journey deepened into yoga, I really understood that the body is a temple. And so Ayurveda gives us the tools to treat our body like a temple. Diet, lifestyle, and lets us know how to take care of ourselves.
Wow, that's really great.
And then there's the crossover between, a vata practice versus a pitta practice in yoga. Right. And during the seasons as well, this is the kapha time of year. We're moving into spring. Things are melting. Things are getting heavy. So right now we want to be cleaning our house. We want to be breathing fresh air, going for walks, even though it's a little cold, but really cleaning out the system. And so, you can go to my website to find anything out about cleansing. I can do one-on-one types of cleansing and kind of design it for the individual.
That's really great. And for anyone out there that's interested in learning more about Ayurveda and wanting to check out one of ELIZA's workshops, her information will be up on the screen throughout the show, and also at the end credits if you wanted to jot that down. I know I'm interested in finding out more, so I'll definitely be attending. Another interesting thing, you have just recently returned from India. Yes. And how was that experience like, and what was your reason for going?
I was taking Ayurvedic course, and at the end of the Ayurvedic course, they offered this trip to India to kind of really integrate what the teachings. So that's what brought me there. And it was a wonderful, beautiful spiritual experience. They really keep the culture true to itself, and it's been an ancient culture. So you really feel like you're amongst an ancient civilization when you're there, and it's just wonderful.
But it was beautiful.
Yeah.
What was a typical day like for you there?
I stayed at a treatment center, and so we'd get up at about 7 and do yoga, and then have breakfast that was made for us, Ayurvedic breakfast, and then we would just kind of either get a treatment or just kind of relax around. It was a compound that was kind of inside and protected. And then during the day we would walk outside and visit the local villages. We went to visit a Krishna temple. We went to visit a lot of temples. Yeah.
Oh, great. I know you brought some pictures that we'd like to share with the viewers today, so we'll give them a moment to get those up, and you can tell us a little about them if you'd like. You want to start with this one right here?
Okay, this is on the, I will say, the campus, kind of the treatment center. That was one of the many beautiful statues that they have around. Yeah.
Great.
And this is a picture of this kind of the center courtyard of, it's called Ayurvedagram. And that is actually an old elephant house. So the elephant would come through that, the archway, and the queen would sit on top of the elephant and leave that way. So this, where I was staying, used to be a place where, used to be a queen's house.
Looks beautiful.
Queen's compound.
Nice. And this one here, that's beautiful. I love the fountain.
They have these oil lamps all around that they light, especially on special Indian holidays.
It's beautiful.
And so it really comes to life when it gets dark out.
They have them throughout the area.
Yeah, they have about 10 of them. And this one, this is kind of what your smaller basic temple looks like, and you're not allowed to take pictures inside the temples. So this is the outside of a Krishna temple, and you see Krishna riding on top of a peacock, and inside there will be a Krishna statue with flowers, and you can walk inside, and sometimes there will be a priest in there who will do a little ceremony with you.
And what's Krishna?
Krishna is in the Hindu religion, kind of the supreme god.
Oh, okay. Pretty. Aw.
And these are some kids when we were out walking through the village. One came out, and then two came out, and then they all came out, and they were just really happy to see us.
Were they really interested?
Around. Oh yeah.
What you guys were up to?
Yep.
Wow.
That's just a pose.
Is that you?
That's me.
Yowzers.
Yep, that's a pose in the courtyard, one of the courtyards. That's actually an amphitheater. And then this is me just meditating in the sun.
Looks like a nice spot.
Yeah, and the stone I'm leaning against was built, I believe, in 1996. So the building is actually 200 years old. But the painting of Hanuman, which is also another Hindu god, is behind me there. And this is just another, you'll see a little green sign there that labels the trees. So you'll find some labels through the trees, and they're all Ayurvedic trees that provide the medicine. So this place is kind of a self-sufficient place where they get the herbs right there.
Yeah.
So
Oh, that is awesome.
You know, for example, I got a facial, and they're slicing the papaya as they were laying it on my face. So it was very lovely.
Nice. Do they do that around here? I don't
know.
think so. Oh, they need
I'm
to.
going to start to do
Are
it,
you
though.
really?
Yes.
Oh, let me know when you do. Now that's a beautiful flower.
Yes, lots of hibiscus flowers around the area.
It looks big.
And this is a tulsi plant. It's holy basil, and it's common to see these through India. Every Indian home will have a tulsi plant, and that's just for protection.
Okay.
And so we found those all over. And we went to visit a yoga university, and this is a yoga doctor. And he's inside an Ayurvedic bath for relaxation, and the water comes out through the sides. And then this is just a picture of some of the other ladies I went with. Some of them are in the Ayurvedic program with me and will be continuing onto the Ayurvedic practitioner level.
Okay.
And some of them are just some yoga people. And then this was a lovely statue in the university.
Excellent. Well, those are great pictures. Look like you had a really,
Yeah,
a really
it
good
was a
time.
wonderful time.
Kind of a neat experience, a
Yeah.
unique experience.
Yes, it was relaxing. It was relaxing, and just every day there was something new.
That's great. Well, I think, is there anything else you'd like to touch upon before we close the show? I know you mentioned an upcoming workshop about herbs.
Yep.
When is that?
That is going to be Saturday, May 17th.
Okay.
And I'm pretty sure the location is going to be in Scarborough. If it gets bigger, we may move it into an actual yoga studio so that there will be more room.
Okay.
But right now, it's set to be held in Scarborough.
Okay.
And we'll be talking about spices. We'll be talking about the or the pre and the post digestive effects of spices, because you can take a spice that might be heating at first, but may have a cooling effect at the end. So
Really?
just diving deep into herbs and spices
Herbs.
native to India.
Okay, wonderful. And with your yoga, any upcoming events or workshops that you'd like to mention?
I'm just starting with yoga. I'm starting a new vinyasa class tomorrow at the practice
Okay.
on Congress Street, and it's a 7 a.m. class, so it's a rise and shine.
Great way to
And
start the day, though.
Great way to start the day. It's all levels.
Great.
And vinyasa is just linking breath to the movement.
So it's like breathing, like a relaxation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and just moving and flowing. Very water-like yoga practice.
Okay.
I also do restorative with sound healing on Sundays, but I won't be here this following Sunday. But the Sundays to follow.
Well, that sounds interesting. Restorative sound.
Restorative yoga. So
okay.
it's restorative yoga, which means you're propped up by blocks and bolsters, and you're just allowed to relax every muscle in your body. And then I take sound healing instruments, Tibetan bowls I'll play. I have a harmonium, and a crystal pyramid, and so all those sounds together, chimes as well,
Very
they
nice.
all really help the person settle in to the practice. So if you need deep relaxation, that is where you want to go, and all these are on the website. All these listings will be
Wonderful.
on the website.
And who doesn't want to feel relaxed, you know?
Yes, it's 30 or 20 minutes of restorative yoga equals about 3 hours of sleep in the body. So this class is a 75-minute class, and so you think about how much you're restoring your
Rest,
body.
yes. Because they say when you sleep, it's when your body is doing,
restoring.
it's rejuvenating and it's
Right.
restoring. So, that makes sense. That kind of tied it together for me. Thank you. Well, I think we touched upon everything. Thank you so much for coming, and thank you. Namaste. And feel free to come back anytime if you have another workshop coming up. I'd love to talk to you about it.
Great.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
And everyone at home, thank you so much for watching. And until next time, see you later.